Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everybody for making the time to be here for this session. As Sam graciously introduced me, my name is Trevor Banerjee, and I am your host for the next few minutes. And I'm also going to be taking you through one of my favorite topics. It's the topic of that ugly S word that many of us, gives us the ick. This is, by the way, this is new slang that I've learned recently, giving someone the ick. I'm talking about sales. For many of us who have ventured into this world of entrepreneurship, we've recognized the inevitable fact that, oh my goodness, I have to sell. Oh, I thought somebody was going to be doing the selling for me, and I just got to deliver my wonderful product or service. No, very often we are, if not all the time, we are the ones who have to sell. And many a times we come from corporate backgrounds where we've had to sell as well. And that comes with its own set of challenges, because that means that we've learned a lot of sales techniques that are outdated. They are techniques from the 80s and the 90s, where you had to fake it till you make it and do all that sort of stuff, which is irrelevant, especially for heart-led professionals and entrepreneurs like all of us here. So I'm going to be sharing a lot about this topic. I feel very passionately about it for a very simple reason, and that is, if we can learn to communicate what it is that we have to offer as products for our product and service effectively, then we create a flow-on effect, which means that we do our purpose, our cause, a service. Yeah, we are doing what's right for the thing that we feel so passionately about. So for many of us here who are vegans and feel very passionately about veganism, but what's the point if we can't bloody communicate it properly to our target audience so that they understand the value that it provides to them, right? So if there's one thing that I would love to leave you with by the end of the session, it is with a sense of excitement and clarity with which you will communicate your message, your product, your service to your audience, so that they get excited and they want to engage with you. Does that sound good to everyone? Just thumbs up. Yep, awesome. All right, a little bit about me. I'll give you a quick rundown. My name is Trevor Banerjee. I am an empowerment coach, and more specifically, a startup coach for people with a passion for compassion, right? So what does that mean? I run the Freedom Switch, which is an agency where we help ethical, conscious, vegan, eco, environmental startups, and we help them by taking them from idea to launch in the shortest time possible, so that they can really go ahead and make a positive impact. So everything that you guys said, Josh, with the whole startup side of things, Jill, Catherine, Ian, Amit, with the work that you're doing, it's very exciting for me because this is the stuff that I do. About me personally, I'm a global citizen. If you're trying to figure out what this accent is, don't ask me. I don't know either. I was born and raised in the Middle East. My parents are Indian. I spent time in India as well. Moved to Australia, which was home for me, Melbourne. And then my wife said, let's go and work in the UK for a couple of years. That was 8 years ago. We've decided to make London, especially West London, our home. Just because it's so central. I've got family in the States. Catherine, I was in Florida in March, had a wonderful time at Palm Beach and Orlando. So yeah, so it's been wonderful here in London, and I think this is kind of where everything's happening. So a lot of the activism stuff's happening here as well. So that's about me. Now, let's move on to our topic of the day, which is sales. So before we get started, I want to open it up to everybody. And I don't want this to just be a one-way lecture. I want it to be slightly open as well. But I just want to ask you guys, when I say the word sales, what does that mean for you? Ian?
For me, it means sort of anxiety, pain, hot sweats, the works,
Yes.
So yeah,
And
it's
sorry, your partner, Ian, what's your name?
Me, I'm Mandy. Hi.
Mandy. Your name doesn't show up on the screen. Sorry. So, Mandy, what about you?
Oh, it's pretty much the same, hot flush. Every time I have to talk to anybody about, in fact, this has been my thing my whole life, is that whole idea that, I can talk passionately about something I love,
Yeah.
but then it's the ask, it's the right, okay, now we're going to, say, we've got this and we would like that from you in order to give you this. And it's just, that's where I end up giving things away free if I'm
Yes.
terrible.
Absolutely. We're going to touch on that. Thank you. Thank you, Ian and Mandy. Catherine, next.
Well, I like to replace the word sales with share. So I don't really think I'm ever selling anything. And I love sales. I'm one of the few people in the world that loves cold calling.
Oh,
And I sold an ancillary IV service for allergies. And the company only had like 4 sales in an entire year. And they did no training with me. And I just went out and knocked on doctors' doors and I had a sale in 3 weeks. And they couldn't believe it. They were like, and the owner of the company, I told her, I said, let's go cold calling. And she goes, you've lost your mind. And she goes, I don't know how you do it. And I said, I'm just sharing something. That's
nice.
why I'm sharing something that I believe in that will help their business.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
it's
Thank you,
pretty
Catherine.
easy. Sure.
And I'll be touching on what Catherine just shared in a little bit more structure as to how can we create that sort of a mindset as well. So absolutely love that. Quickly,
You.
Josh, moving over to you. Anything you want to share?
I just think sales is the bringing value to a product, good, or service. Like that's what I think of is how do you garner value
Nice.
whoever you're speaking with.
Awesome. Jill?
I liked Catherine's comment of sharing because I love sharing information. I do that a lot. I always say I'm not good at sales.
Yeah.
Or I'll give the money back. I'm certainly going, no, that's yours. But I love sharing. I share a
Yes.
lot of information. So that's more on my side.
I love that. And the thing is, we just need, so I'm going to keep talking about the fact that we're heart-led and how are we different from everybody else? But yeah, sharing is very much heart-led quality or value. We just need to now monetize the sharing that we're doing. Amit, over to you.
Yeah, so I also agree with Catherine. It's more about sharing. I also believe that it is about happiness and feeling of contentment that the knowledge that you have gained for so long is worth and is useful for people that are outside.
Beautiful.
So
Yes.
I have worked mainly with B2B, never B2C. But even in B2B, those are individuals who are using the products that I made or using the animations, whatever I had made. So at a point of time, there was one person who was from the sales. So I'm an entrepreneur, but I sold it to someone, and he said to me that the visualization was such brilliant. It was about health itself, and it was a graphic design for smoking and heart. And I linked the cigarette directly to the what do you say, blood pressure monitor, and the arm was itself made of a cigarette. He said I stopped smoking, and that was a winning point for me. That I could sell my art to a person who was, and they always said, the pharmaceutical companies always say that you cannot sell anything to us. We are the champions of selling. And that was a winning point for me.
And you sold it to him. I love that.
Exactly,
Thank you.
exactly.
Love that
So
story.
it was more about happiness and sharing my art and my knowledge and making it worth and useful for them.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Mitali, over to you.
Well, I want to say to Ian and Mandy, I completely share the whole sweats thing. I was never really good at sales, and I sweat in a really strange place. My top lip here, which is really embarrassing. You can't even hide that sweat. It's not like under your armpits or your palms, which you can try and hide. It was really frustrating. I'm much better at it now. For me, the thing that I learned that's really helped me with sales is listening. So listening to what somebody actually needs. And, you know, I kind of work with the sort of, they should really speak maybe 60 or 70% of the time. And then it's only at the end that I almost kind of say, okay, well, this is what I've got, and marry it to what they needed from me. And I found that kind of sharing is where I had the real transformation in sales. And now it's got to a stage where I don't sweat my top lip anymore. You'll be glad to know. I actually feel very comfortable doing it, and I have more successes as well. But yeah, I think sometimes when we think of sales, we think we should be the one who's talking. And I've learned that actually your prospect should be doing most of the talking.
Love that, Mitali. You know, what's beautiful here is everyone's touching on something or the other that we're going to be covering today. And you're going to really understand why these elements are so important. Like Mitali, what you just said, you know, listening, that touches on the point that I'm going to be sharing with you shortly on how to ask the right questions so that you're in a position where they're the ones doing the talking. So, and last but not the least, Sam, I haven't forgotten you, please.
Oh, there was me thinking I could sit quietly and get away with it. So for me, the sales initially, I don't find so bad once I've got someone there. It's the putting myself out there in the first place. Very lucky in that we tend to get a lot of people come to us, so and book with us. So that kind of takes that initial risk of like the cold calling or that away. But obviously we would get more of a pipeline if we did that. And probably my biggest thing is because we do like what I would consider a lot of repeat sales. Mine is that I overgive.
Yes.
And so mine is then having to go back and say, well, actually, the kind of what's needed has changed. So it's approaching it from that angle. What's needed has changed. The scope's changed. So I will tend to give way more than I probably should when I should be going back with an additional sale.
Yep. That is textbook heart-led business owner behavior, where we feel like we need to give more and more, you know. And again, this is one of the reasons why this presentation I'm going to show you is designed specifically for people that are heart-led, that feel like they, you know, they've got the bleeding hearts and they want to give and help and support and all of that, which is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. We just need to structure it in such a way that it supports you as well, right? So on that note, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and let me make sure that I'm sharing. Yes. So in this masterclass, you will learn, why do we struggle with selling? I've got 3 mistakes, the top 3 mistakes that we make, and then we're going to bring all of it together. Okay. So let's dig into it right away. This masterclass will help you if you have a product or service that solves a problem, but you struggle to sell it. Now, this is a very important point, and I need to emphasize on this, that whatever you have to offer needs to be able to solve an actual problem that is out there. So the first thing I want you to think about is, what is that problem that you are solving? Maybe write that down as a question. You can expand on that a little bit. This is also going to help you if you feel uncomfortable at the thought of having a sales conversation. So definitely for many of us over here, you're keen to learn how to change your relationship with money. This is something that I tend to touch on whenever I do presentations like this, because a lot of it comes down to a mindset that we have around money, right? And if we have a limiting belief, and this is something I'm going to get you to check on, then that could be one of the reasons why you feel like, oh, maybe I should just give you this for free as well, and maybe, you know, and a lot of that sort of behavior. And then you'd like to understand how to achieve financial freedom in 2023. So that's something that we will wrap up with. Okay. So module 1 is why do the heart-led struggle with selling? Well, very simply, it's because we have to start off with, we have this approach or this mindset that is usually based on this universal fear of being rejected. Okay? The number one reason why most of us struggle is because it has nothing to do with the sale. It has nothing to do with your product or service. It has everything to do with you. So when they say, no, I'm not interested, your subconscious is saying, oh, I've just been rejected. Just by show of hands, does that make sense to you guys? Yeah? So we make it about us. Let me give you a simple example. How many of us have watched a fantastic movie or a show, and we have gone ahead and recommended that to a friend or a family member? Yeah? Now, why did you sell? Why did you sell that movie or show or a song or concert? Right? Because that's kind of what you did. Oh my God, have you watched da-da-da? You have to watch it. Just stop doing what you do, everything, and just go ahead and watch. You're selling. Think about it. Right? So this is a lot of what Catherine, Josh, what you guys touched on, which is the whole, you know, it's about sharing. It's about sharing your thought or idea. You just shared something that you're passionate about. And part of it, think about this for a second, is very much aligned with your value. So for example, if you know this person, let's say you know this person loves a really good rom-com, and you recommended this rom-com that you found really enjoyable. Now, when they turn around and they come back to you next week and they say, oh my God, I was in Splits the other day, I watched that show that you recommended. Makes you feel good. That's the reason why you do it. You do it because you want them to have a good time and you want them to appreciate you afterwards for it. It just tends to be the case. Now, what happens when we're dealing with a product or a service, and especially if we're dealing with somebody who doesn't know us? So if it's a cold, let's say, you know, Catherine spoke about cold calling. We are dealing with somebody we don't have that relationship. Therefore, there is a higher chance of us being rejected. Our subconscious thinks that we're going to get rejected. Okay. So we do that, and we go into that conversation with this perception of what a salesperson looks or sounds like. Yeah. And they tend to be, you ready for this? They tend to be something like this guy. Yeah. By the way, you can see him, right? You can't see your faces because that's what I can see. I can see I've got your window with all of your faces on the right side of my screen. So you see this guy. So, and how many, just by show of hands, how many of you are familiar with this guy, right? You've experienced him or her in some form or another. And you don't want to be that guy. So that's the reason why this ends up happening, right? So because of such beliefs, it limits us, and we resist. We have that resistance. So then the first thing we've got to understand is we need to change our mindset around sales, and we need to recognize that just because we've had uncomfortable conversations in the past with people, that doesn't mean that that needs to be us. We don't need to have this guy's approach. Okay. So is it going to be cash or card? Remember that line? No. It doesn't need to be that way anymore. Okay. We don't need to corner people into buying whatever it is that we have to offer, because we have enough value so that they will recognize the value themselves. Our job is simply to connect the dots between where they are, whatever it is their pain is, or whatever their desire is, and whatever the value it is that we offer. So if I request you to draw this up, where you draw up my value, your pain / desire. Yeah. And draw the line. If you can draw that, if you can connect those dots, that's it. They will ask you, so where do I pay? Where's your link? Right? So that's the case. Now, why do heart-led people tend to struggle specifically? Because we believe that a lot of time, and this is based on the research that I've done over the 10 years of working in this space, that we're manipulating someone. We believe that we have to be aggressive. We have to have that aggressive approach. Hey, can I just get your attention just for a minute? I just need you for a minute. We need to take that approach. We believe that we're making them feel uncomfortable. And then the other two reasons is because we haven't learned to value ourselves and the offering that we have, and we haven't learned a specific process, a sales process, a sales conversation, right? So if we can work on these three things, number one, working on the mindset and getting rid of these feelings that we have associated with sales. And I want you to do an internal audit. Ask yourself, when I think about salespeople, what is it that I perceive? Because that's typically what's going to happen when you have to sell. If you think salespeople have to be arrogant, then your resistance is going to be, I don't want to be arrogant. If you think that they're too pushy, I think, I don't want to be pushy. So the first thing is changing the mindset and understanding what are the limiting beliefs that you've got. Second, recognizing to value yourself and whatever it is that you have to offer, and understanding that it holds value. And then the third is understanding and creating a process for whatever it is that you have to offer. Cool? Make sense? Awesome. So, the three big mistakes that heart-led professionals make. Number one, we try too hard. 2, we don't understand the value. And 3, we don't have a process. So let's dig straight into the trying too hard. What does that mean? We talk more and we listen less. Now, when we talk more, we make it about us and not them. Once again, this is all about taking us out of the equation and putting in the pain or the desire of our audience and our offering. So for example, Amit, you shared the example of your animation. Your animation did the talking for you. It didn't have to be you trying to explain to the expert, hey, listen, my animation is going to be fantastic and it's going to solve XYZ problems, Right. Okay. So another reason is, if we don't understand the problem, how can we offer the solution? And if we don't understand their vision or desire, how do we know if we're even right for them? So often we try and bulldoze our way just because we're so keen and excited about getting the sale, that very often we reach right at the end and we find out, oh my goodness, this person, I mean, I don't even have a solution for this person, right? So very important. How do we overcome these challenges? Well, quite simple. It's following the 80-20 rule. Now, Mithali said something about 60% or 70%. I would go with 80%. 80% them do the talking, 20% you speak. And we're specifically speaking now about sales conversations. We're not talking, this isn't an online sales process or a marketing process or a funnel to bring people to you. Even with that, it's all about them. But for this exercise, we're just specifically speaking about we're working on the conversation, okay? Because you will all inevitably be in that conversation. Now, this is a term that I've coined. It's called the spotlight effect. And let me explain it in this manner. Have you guys been to a play? Have you been to like a theater, a play where you've got actors acting on stage? Yes? Now, when you've been there, have you noticed this image where you've got like a spotlight on this person and all the rest of the stage is blank? Or it's dark, it's black, right? Now, what does that mean to you? It would mean typically that, oh, this person's going to perform now, right? Everyone else is shush, everyone else is just on the sidelines. Now, all of a sudden, it's this person's spotlight to sing or give their monologue, right? I call this the spotlight effect because in a sales conversation, think of it in this way. Whoever the spotlight is on, it's their chance or their time to perform. And how is the spotlight on that person? Simple. By the person who's asking the questions. So if your client or your customer is saying to you, let's say, Mandy, they're saying, hey, so tell me, how are you guys different from all of the others that are out there? How are you different from the other animals? Who's the spotlight on? It's on you, right? And now you've got to do the song and dance. You've got to, well, the way we're different is that we are, more better priced, and we've got state of the art, spare equipment. I don't know. The point is, they're in control of the conversation, and you are the one who needs to perform now to them so that they figure out, is this person right for me? The way you can change this scenario is by flipping it around and recognizing that the person who asks the questions guides the conversation. And it's not just a power trip thing. This is about understanding that when you ask the right questions, asking questions leads to learning about your client's problems. So a question that I tend to ask in my script is, so what is something that is currently challenging you in your business? What is your biggest challenge in your business right now? Then when they tell me, oh, times are tough right now, and, we're finding it hard to get clients. Okay, all right. So what are you doing about it? Well, we're on Facebook ads, and, we're trying to do things and blah, blah, blah. Okay. How's that working for you? Well, it's hit and miss, and I don't know. Okay, how does that make you feel? See what I'm doing? I've got my questions ready, and it's not because I'm in control. No, that's a byproduct. It's because I'm understanding what is really painful for them. And I promise you this, Ian, Amit, Josh, Catherine, Mithali, Sam, if you have your scripts in place where you know that format of asking them, how does this make you feel? And you get to that question and they say, oh, it's so frustrating. Now you know that this is their problem, and you know that you can tailor your answer to what that problem is. Does that make sense? Awesome. Excellent. So when we do this, we and by the way, I've split this into two solutions. One is the 80-20 rule, which is the spotlight effect. The second one is the Socratic approach. Now, how many of you, just by show of hand, know that guy over there on the screen, right? Woo! He's like vegan Jesus. So that's Earthling Ed for those of you who don't know. And if there's anything that you want to learn in sales, this is the most unorthodox sales recommendation. Watch Earthling Ed's videos where he's questioning people on the street. And what he's using there is called the Socratic approach, meaning he's asking you questions and he's framing the questions in a way where he's making you come to the conclusion yourself. I'll give you a simple example. The question he tends to ask is, so what, why is it that you consume, meat and dairy? And then if the answer is, well, I don't buy, factory farmed, I only buy ethically sourced meat and dairy. So his response to that is, okay, can you explain to me, how do you ethically take the life of a sentient being? What's the ethical way of doing that? Now, he's not being a smartass. He's genuinely asking you to come up with the answer so that you connect the dots and you realize, oh, yeah, actually, there isn't any ethical way. Yeah. And if they're being difficult in the, like, you say, what would be the ethical way of killing a dog that doesn't need to die? Yeah. Or your pet or something like that. So by, again, asking the right questions rather than telling them, hey, this is what veganism is about. There is no such thing as, ethically taking the life of another sentient being. So the quality of your questions builds credibility and trust. This is an amazing byproduct of asking really good questions as well. Because two things are happening. One, the person you're speaking to and you're asking the questions to, the spotlight's on them. They're having to think about the answers. They're having to think about the pain. Yeah. They're having to think about the thing that they desire. But the second thing is, when you ask these really pertinent questions, their subconscious is saying, geez, this person really knows what they're talking about. Right? Think about it. When Earthling Ed, if those of you who've watched the videos, or if you've watched a video where a journalist is asking really, really, telling questions, makes you think that this journalist is credible, right? Or this person is really credible. It's because you're thinking, you're asking thought out questions. Yeah. So, and it enables the customer or the client to deduce what their problem is, and therefore who is their solution, right? So if you're asking these, like when I ask, so what is your challenge? Okay, well, it's marketing. Okay, what are you doing about marketing? Well, we're doing this, that, and the other. Is that giving you the results? You're hit and miss. How does that make you feel? Oh, okay, so do you have a systematic approach to marketing and a marketing plan that gives you a consistent flow of leads every month? Do you? And usually the answer is no. But it also implies that Trevor Banerjee, has a marketing plan and a system that will give you a consistent flow of results. Does that make sense? So by you asking a question that implies you have something to offer that is the answer, they start seeing you as the solution. Yeah? I'm seeing, and by the way, this is, as I said at the start, this isn't a one-way street. So if you feel that at any point you have a question, please raise your hand and or do the hand thingy, and I'll be, oh, Catherine, yes.
Well, it's kind of interesting the way that sales has changed so much. I went back into a sales role a couple of years ago. I've actually been in the medical waste, pharmaceutical waste industry for 25 years. And all of a sudden, the way that sales are done was so different. You know, it's like 6 people. Well, I'm sorry. We would get a lead that would come through the computer, and they had contacted 6 people, 6 potential vendors. I was like, oh my goodness, wow. And they would say to me that I was the only person that called them back, and that I was the only person that asked them questions. And they said, no one asked me about if I had a permit. And I was like, oh my goodness. So, knowing the trade, I've always had a list of qualifying questions for whatever industry I was in. I developed those. And the other thing was making the customer realize the value that you are bringing to their business that they didn't even realize. And the best thing was when one of the clients said to me, she said, you know what? You made me realize this wasn't about finding the cheapest medical waste transporter. It's also a business decision for the environment. And you made me realize I had to care about a much bigger picture. And I did secure the business. And when I went in, she told everyone that story. She's like, this woman made me realize that this is a bigger picture for our practice that we have to look at, that everyone should be looking at. And she's like hugging me the whole time. And it's like I felt like I did my job.
Yeah, and absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Catherine. And again, it comes back to the fact that when we look deeper, that we are actually doing this is a service to our greater cause as vegan heart-led businesses. This is the ripple effect that we're creating in the world, right? So, okay, so homework, watch Earthling Ed's street interview videos. All right, moving on to the next mistake, not understanding your value. Now, Amit touched on this earlier, and I was really happy that he said that. This is something that we struggle with a lot, and that is giving things away for free, doing things and underpricing ourselves, saying, hey, why didn't you try this? Money back guarantee, all that kind of stuff. There is a place for a lot of that in marketing, but when it comes to your sale and standing by and putting a price next to what it is that you have to offer, this is something that's really, really important to understand. So it's the story of the marine engineer. Quick story for you. Big ship owner decides to build state-of-the-art ship, brings in one of the best marine engineers in the world. He helps build the turbines and the engine that powers this incredible ship. Goes away, ship's running. One day the ship comes across a problem. There's a challenge. It's not working. So everyone's struggling. All of the engineers that work in that company they're trying to figure it out. They haven't figured it out. So the ship owner goes back to the guy who built the turbine and the whole engine, and he calls the guy back. He's an elderly gentleman. He comes, tinkers around a little bit, tightens a couple of screws, hits a couple of things, and voila, it starts working again. And then he goes away and he sends a bill for $50,000. So the owner gets on the phone and he's like, wait a second, what? You were there for 10 minutes and you just did nothing, and you're charging me 50,000. He's like, I'm not charging you 50,000 or I'm not charging you this amount for the time that I've spent there. I'm charging you for the knowledge that I have and the understanding of what is wrong with this system right now. This is one of the most powerful lessons and stories that I can share with you, because each one of you has accumulated all of this wealth of knowledge, right? And we know so much. And And if we don't, then we need to just go back and recognize, what is it that I've done? I've specialized in all of these years, right? And that is what people are paying you for. And people are ready to pay you for that, because this, again, this is a mindset thing, is an exchange of value, right? So the mistake is not understanding your value. A lack of value recognition leads to offering more and more for less and less. Yeah. It also creates confusion in your prospect's mind. So wait, and you depreciate your value in the marketplace. You offer broader solutions with lesser focus on your prospect's actual problem. This is, again, this is more a case of positioning yourself. I hear this all the time. Hey, hi, so what do you do? I'm a nutritionist. Okay, and who's your ideal client? Who's your target audience? Everybody. So why? Because, and eventually I find out that it's because I don't want to miss out on, you know, on a client. I can help everyone. Yeah. We know you can help everyone, but there is a specific person who sees you and you can niche down on, that you can be everything to. So the quote I like to go with is, be everything to someone rather than everything. Oh, no, sorry. I messed that up. Let me say that again. Be something to someone rather than everything to no one. Yeah. So that's something. Figure out what that something is and double down on it. So for me, I work with heart-led startups that have a product or service that they'd like to offer, and they want to grow, and they want to do it authentically. So this is my niche. Now, can I help other businesses? Of course I can, but it's not my specialization. And because I specialize in this area, it becomes easy for my audience to see me and say, that's the guy I was looking for. So it's the same thing with all of you, okay? And then, of course, that all of that leads to no sales. So the solution is, remember this acronym. I love this. This is another Trevor special. It's Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi, but it's basically stands for what's in it for you. Always ask this question, what's in it for you? Because your audience is only asking one question when they're speaking to you. What's in it for me? Yeah, I know. You care about the animals, and you know, okay, very nice. You got fancy gadgets and you know, certificates on the wall. What's in it for me? And if you can connect the dots, that will lead them to offering you and paying you what you deserve. So understand their biggest challenge that stops them from achieving their desired outcome. Once you know this, keep the offer simple, and you will go from no value to know your value. Yeah. All right. I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to jump to the next point, and that is lack of a sales process. Okay. All right. Let me share the story of a guy who hated sales. It's this guy here. This is me from 10 years ago with, I'd like to think that besides the hair, nothing much has changed. So I had a budding career in corporate world. Okay, I used to work for a bank called ANZ. I was a business banking manager, and a fancy title for basically somebody who's looking after rich people's money. Right now, I reached a stage in my life where I was diagnosed with depression, had all kinds of health conditions, and recognized that the problem was I was living an inauthentic life. I was not cut out for working in a bank, in a soulless job, doing something that I had no passion for. So I quit my job and decided to do an eat, pray, love journey and figure it out. I know what it is. I want to be a life coach, because I had a fantastic life coach who helped me So I wanted to do that. So I got a life coaching certification and did other things like NLP and things like that, that really awesome. And I set up shop, set up a nice little website. It was called Positive Living. Yeah. And I was waiting there, waiting for the clients to show up. And they didn't, right? And it took me 6 to 7 months for me to then shut shop and recognize that, come to terms with the fact that that business failed. Fortunately, I found a business coach who then started mentoring me, and I started working with him. And one of the first things he got me to do was cold calling. So Catherine, we have a similar sort of background there, and I hated it with every inch of my being, because firstly, I didn't have an Australian accent. I was calling people, offering them, business owners twice my age, offering them business solutions. Oh my goodness. Anyway, quickly I found out that my age, my accent, ethnicity, none of that stuff had anything to do with what it is that I had to offer. All I had to do was have a systematic process in which I was asking the right questions and understanding the right, or through that understanding the problems, and then offering what it is that I had to offer. In our case, at that time, we had an ebook, which was the 5 biggest mistakes that Australian business owners make and how to overcome them. And all we were doing was like, hey, I'm just calling to offer you this book that Greg Roworth, who was the founder of the business, has written. We'd like to mail it out to you. This is how much times have changed in the last 10 years. We used to post mail the books to people, but that's what we did. And it was a nice process because it got people to, oh, wow, you're giving me something of value. They read it. And so I say, I'm only going to send it to you if you are willing for me to call you back in a week to get your feedback on the book. So they say, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Call them back in a week, get their feedback, or sometimes they don't read it. Okay, call them back the next week. But then it initiates the conversation where we then start understanding what their problems are. And typically they would say, yeah, I could relate to the mistake number 2 and mistake number 3, just like you are probably relating to some of these mistakes that I'm sharing with you in these slides. Yeah. So lack of a sales process is the 3rd biggest mistake. Winging it doesn't cut it anymore. And without a sales process, your business is dependent, and it starts and ends with your hustle. So you could be a fantastic salesperson. You could be one of those people who calls people, or who attends networking events, and people are like, oh my God, I want what you have to offer. But the problem with that is that if you have a sick day, or if you decide to take a holiday, that's it, that the sales are on pause, right? So you need to have a proper system or a process in place. So develop a system, develop a process. So this is just a snippet of like what my sales script is like. And what I'd like to do as a bonus, and this is something for Sam, is if you have like a lucky draw, or you have something that you offer, I'd like to give this script in its entirety to the person that gets picked out. Yeah, awesome. So, but this is a script that we have, and in this script, we go through that Socratic approach and ask the right questions. But the beauty of this is, later on, we were able to hire a team that could then follow our script and do the calls for us, right? So then we could just focus on delivering the results. So we were leveraging our time rather than doing something like spending 3 to 4 hours a day, making all of these calls. So conclusion. Every conversation of conviction is a sales conversation. Remember the movie example that I shared with you, right? But another thing I want you to remember is if they don't buy from you, they will buy from someone else. They have the pain needs to be resolved. And if they do, it may not always be from someone who's conscientious or heart-led. And your sales and growth have a ripple effect on your purpose and your movement. This is the most important thing that you need to remember, that it's not about you or me. It's about the movement, the purpose that we've dedicated our lives to. And all we are doing is just picking one area that we can support people with. The better your animations, the better your videos, the better your clients, the better results they get, the more veganism grows, right? And that's just one example. Mitali, the same thing with you, Jill, Catherine, Sam, everyone. So that's it for today. And finally, get comfortable with asking for the sale. Yeah. A couple of quotes that I want to leave you with. Know that you're worth what you're asking for. And sales is not about selling anymore, but about building trust and educating. And finally, approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or service. Phew, that is it. I hope I didn't cross my time too much, Sam.
Thank you so much, Trevor. I mean, I'm probably speaking for everyone here, but actually amazing, so much in there, and obviously little bits of snippets that we kind of know, but it's kind of great to go through all of that, through the mindset and everything. And that last point that you said there about they will buy even if it's not from you, and I think for me that's really struck home, in that my worry is they would then go and buy from someone, as you say, that is not a heart-led business. And so that alone, from my takeaway today, will drive me to be stronger and approach those sales conversations with more conviction. So thank you for that.